I welcome everyone to the new part of the video. Jimmy is with you as always. I am very grateful to everyone for their support. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I love you all. Let's get started. First story today from the user Throwaway Insinesis. Let's listen. On a throwaway, since my family knows and stalks my SM, I, 26 female, have been no contact with my sister Cheryl, 24 female, and mother, 57 female, since I turned 18. Our parents divorced when I was 14, when my mom's constant favoritism and enabling of Cheryl's abuse of me would not stop. My mom excused it as, every parent has their favorite, but Cheryl took delight in stealing from me, destroying my things, and using me as a physical and emotional punching bag. My dad, after years of trying to force family counseling, mental health evaluations, family interventions, but my mom kept enabling and at times felt like encouraging Cheryl. My dad treated divorce as a last-ditch effort to try and save what was left of my childhood. My mom demanded full custody of Cheryl in exchange for giving my dad 80-20 of me. It was a rough battle, and he really did try to limit my custody time with mom. At 16, I was able to stay with my dad full-time and only see mom and Cheryl occasionally or at school. I suspect my mom wanted 80-20 of me to keep me around as Cheryl's punching bag, but Cheryl's power over me lessened the instant I had the power to just walk away. It's funny, Cheryl seemed obsessed with taking from me. New phone? Taken. New tablet? Taken. Once we were both in high school and I lived with dad full-time, she couldn't blatantly steal from me anymore. Didn't stop her from trying. I had one boyfriend in high school who she tried to seduce, but failed. He told me immediately and was weirded out by it. When I went to college, she e-stalked me and found out if I was dating anyone. Had 2 boyfriends in college, and she tried the same thing. Both times, they told me about Cheryl's attempts and shot her down. This part might need explanation. Cheryl is conventionally attractive, like from across the room. But since she was a teenager, she has a hygiene issue. She showers once every 2 weeks and uses a combination of scented hand lotion and perfume that combines with her BO into a new mega stench versus covering up. My last college boyfriend remarked that when she put her hand on his shoulder, he was immediately grossed out by her nails. When I was in college, Cheryl also attempted to get a credit card in my name, but I had a lock on my credit, courtesy of my father who feared my mom would try this first. So, needless to say, I'm not impressed with my sister or my mom. Last night I got a weird call from my Aunt Janice, 64 female, my mom's sister. I haven't talked to this woman in nearly a decade, and suddenly she's calling me. She asked me what I heard. I heard nothing, so I was confused. She instantly was like, "Good, Cheryl needs a place to stay. Your mom kicked her out." I was immediately like, "Excuse me? No?" Janice then kept begging me to let Cheryl stay at my place, at least for a few days, for my mom to cool down. I told Janice that I haven't talked to Cheryl, my mom, or her in years, that you are all strangers to me, and last time we all talked, you aren't my favorite people. Janice then kept saying, family helps family, and it's just for a few days, it'll be fine. I finally blocked the number, but I did get a confused call from cousins confused that I cut my sister and mom off, as if it happened recently, and not almost a decade ago. The cousins, from my mom's side, rarely talked to me, so they were just as confused as I was, and wanted clarification. I'm debating on telling them the details, but I'm thinking of just telling them it's not their business. But I can't help but think I should have handled the call with my aunt better. AITAH, for how I told my aunt that I want nothing to do with my mom and sister. Author update this story. Talked to 2 of my cousins over the phone and explained that I've been no contact with my mom and sister since I was 18. Still saw them both a handful of times, but never interacted with them directly. As suggested, gave Cliff Notes version of what happened with my sister and mom that made me want to cut them both off. One cousin said, figures, and the other said, makes sense. Aunt sent a message via Facebook Messenger of, I had no idea it was that bad. She did. And that she will leave me alone about it from now on. Overall, felt good starting my Friday, until noon today. My husband and I work from home, and we were both surprised when our Ring doorbell said we had someone buzzing the front door. Checked the camera and, yep, it's my sister Cheryl with 2 suitcases. Went to the door and kept the screen door closed and locked, but opened the front door. I could still smell her weird BO through the screen door, so her hygiene has not improved since I last knew her. Cheryl tried to go, "Hey sis!" All bubbly and like half my childhood didn't happen. I asked what she wanted. She said her and Mom got in a fight, wouldn't say what the fight was about, and asked to stay with me. I said absolutely not, and she started crying. Then she said she didn't want to tell me this, but her and my husband have been having a 6-month-long affair, and that she couldn't hold it in anymore, and that blood sticks with blood. It was that moment my husband rounded the corner and said, "Say what?" My sister looked confused and asked who the hell the man behind me was, and I almost laughed because I realized what happened. Since Thanksgiving onward, my husband grew a small beard for the first time. Most of his pics on social were him cleanly shaven, so of course Cheryl would have no idea what he looked like with the beard. I said, "That's my husband," and she tried to recover. It was sad and pathetic. I simply said, "Bye, Cheryl," and closed the door. 10 minutes of her continually buzzing the ring and knocking, pleading, and she finally left. Called both cousins and asked what the hell this is all about, and why did my mom kick Cheryl, her favorite child, out. One cousin only knew bare bones, but the other knew the details. When my parents first divorced, there was a guy my mom brought in almost immediately, who I call Scumbag Tom. Him showing up and the start of the divorce felt highly suspect, but he was always a weird guy that I never liked being around. I did ask my dad if he thought Mom cheated on him with Tom, and he said Tom was the least of his worries, and the lowest of his priorities when it came to the divorce. Long story short, Cheryl slept with Tom, Mom found out, kicked Cheryl out, and Tom stayed, swearing Cheryl tricked him somehow. Just Cheryl staying super classy, and Mom found the one thing she wouldn't tolerate Cheryl doing. God, I'm glad I cut these people out of my life. This is a strange and developing situation. Last 12 hours have been a roller coaster. I talked to my dad again today, had him visit, and told him what Cheryl had done, and Dad sat down on the couch and started laughing and crying and shaking his head. I was really worried because I was afraid he was having a medical issue. He finally caught his breath and told me the family secret. During the divorce, my mom was apparently extremely vicious and even attempted to keep me full-time. I wasn't told this. Mom went as far to even claim I was not my dad's child, and she knew who my father was and would use this to get full custody. Dad was undeterred. Even if I wasn't his child, he raised me, and he wasn't going to leave me in hell because of that. Paternity tests were ordered for both me and Cheryl, and I was Dad's child. Cheryl was not. Cheryl, however, did match the person my mom brought to be sampled, Scumbag Tom. Dad was still going between chuckling and sobbing for a few minutes while telling me and my husband this. Then there was silence, which felt like it went forever. I finally asked if Scumbag Tom knew. Dad just nodded. I asked him how he felt about Cheryl. He said, "You can't just turn off being someone's dad, no matter how shitty they turn out." I had my husband take my dad to the guest bedroom after he said he needed to lay down a moment. Around noon, my phone started ringing. It was an unknown number, but I figured it was Cheryl. I picked up and yup, Cheryl. She was again begging for any sort of help. Stay with me, or money for a hotel, anything. I was tired, and I admit, I wanted to hurt her. So I told her. I told her who Scumbag Tom was to her. She was quiet, then begged me to tell her I was lying. I just hung up. I told my husband and father what I did, and my dad just started that weird, sobbing chuckle again. My husband, however, said we should probably call my aunt and let her know what I just told Cheryl, in case Cheryl becomes unstable, and at least someone would be alert for it. I do feel bad that I dropped this on Cheryl as a way specifically to hurt her. I tried justifying, this isn't even a tenth of the hurt she's given me, but hurting someone doesn't feel good the longer I sit with it. Posting here in my profile for now. Don't know where this would belong, honestly. At everyone's advice, I did call my 2 cousins, and we had a real conversation. Whoever said my mom and sister controlled the narrative with that side of the family was right. According to my cousins, my dad was painted as low-life cheater and I as a dropout drug addict that went man to man. Literally only had 4 boyfriends my entire life. So when my sister was kicked out, my aunt suggested she stay at my place. The cousins were confused. Wasn't I a druggie that couch surfed and was unemployed? Aunt apparently came up with a story that I speed ran adulthood in 6 months of getting clean, an online degree, a job, home, and husband. Now, both cousins never really liked my mom or sister. They just figured that if trash called me trash, I must have been super trash. I did tell them the truth about Cheryl and scumbag Tom, and both were disgusted with everyone involved. They made sure that the family has been sufficiently warned. Now, the next part apparently happened late last night, and I'm getting this secondhand. Cheryl apparently stopped back at Mom's and the three of them got in a big argument. Things were broken and thrown against the wall, and the cops were called. Cops showed up. Mom tried to get Cheryl kicked out, but apparently, Cheryl's legal address is Mom's house, so the cops told her she can't be kicked out. Same with scumbag Tom's legal address. So as long as no one is actually assaulted, the cops didn't care. I'm now making it a habit of putting all calls from unfamiliar numbers straight to voicemail. Got 3 from new numbers last night. 2 was Mom. First, her crying and pleading for her to apologize to me and begging me to understand. Second was her screaming and cursing to the point of it devolving into noise. The third call was scumbag Tom. Started with him going, "Hey kiddo," deleted that one before it finished. Going to take the Ring doorbell footage, the past legal case of the credit card, the voicemails, the texts, and info from my cousins, and get some legal orders in place now. It's all just trash, 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 trash. I mentioned on my profile that I cleared up the narrative about me to my cousins. Mother and sister spun a tale that I was a hot mess. Couldn't keep a job, slept around, did drugs, couch surfed. When my sister was kicked out, my aunt decided to suggest Cheryl stay with me, which made my cousins confused. Wasn't I a hot mess? Aunt then made up a story that I got my life together, got clean, a degree, career, house, and husband in 6 months' time. Cousins were skeptical, but they thought that since my mom and sister were trash, if they called me trash, I must have been super trash, so they always kept a distance away. That's since been cleared up. For the most part, the cousins wanted to stay away from the epicenter of drama bombs. The next part I heard in part from 2 of my cousins. Cheryl decided to head back home, and her and Mom got into a big argument, and scumbag Tom decided to jump in. Cops were called, everyone's addresses were verified, and the cops' attitude was, since no one was assaulted, no one is allowed to kick anyone out, and left. I've been getting calls from all family members now. Mom, Cheryl, and scumbag Tom go straight to voicemail, and I'm collecting as much of it as possible, and have been sending it to the police. My husband suggested we retain a lawyer to better handle this, which we will be doing in the next couple of days. Aunt is acting very apologetic and keeps claiming she didn't know the abuse was as intense as it was, and thought the problems I had with Cheryl was unwise sibling stuff. But, she said, we shouldn't cut Mom and Cheryl out of our lives just yet. No one else on Mom's side of the family is willing to lend any help or support, except for Aunt. I am, however, getting more calls from cousins, second cousins, and other members of Mom's family wanting to reconnect now that they know the truth. Sort of not sure if I should even dedicate any time to them. They didn't lend my father or I any support during the divorce or afterwards. Part of me understands that it's because my mom and sister spun a hell of a narrative, but at least according to my cousins, her side of the family thought Mom and Cheryl were trash anyways, but still associated with them. I might reconnect more with my aunt's kids, the 2 cousins, since they approached me when this whole mess started with confusion and asked for clarification, not outright trying to browbeat me into accepting my sister into my home. What I think about this story? You know what's concerning? Cheryl's hygiene went down the drain the moment she hit puberty. I have seen so many cases of SA as a teacher, and one of the ways victims try to keep their abusers away is to stop hygiene practices. A change that drastic should have been a red flag. The second would be that she would have taken her anger and frustration out on the sibling not getting the same treatment, the divorce, the split custody, and not knowing why your dad only got custody if the other sibling would have caused so much damage psychologically, mentally, and emotionally. I hope to God that I am wrong here, otherwise scumbag might have knowingly moved in to get access to his kid. Glad OP had her dad to fight for her. User commented this story. I haven't spoken to my cousins in decades, but it wouldn't take long to look most of them up on FB, and either send them a message or call through Messenger. The ones that aren't on FB pretty much all have contact with someone who is and could get in touch on my behalf. I might not feel the need to include that detail in a post like this because I'd assume people understand that no matter how long it's been, it's still possible to get in touch. I'm not saying that it's proof that this story is real, just that it's not proof that it is not. Of all the things that make me doubt the story, this is the least of them. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end, but do not rush to get upset. Today we are waiting for the second part. Thank you all for your support. Bye-bye.